YouTube. So day three. A few days, I appreciate that. However, summer holidays, children, kids at home, all fun and games, and generally life. However, today, leaning into the consistency, showing up, making sure that I continue and be consistent. Otherwise, what's this all for? As we all know. So hopefully you can hear nice and loud. Again, got a few notes from the last video. So I'm just going to read them out and just share my thoughts on them. And again, whatever you find useful, take the rest, do whatever you like with it. So it'll just be sit nice and comfortably, no pressure. So this episode was all around this idea of mindsets of millionaire entrepreneurs. So it's this idea that they've created a list of 10 key mindsets of beliefs or ways that you see the world that you need to lean into if you don't already, which is going to support your growth, support your success. So it kind of follows on nicely from the previous video if you had an opportunity to sit through that all around belief. So the first one is this ownership mindset. So that was the first one. And what I'm going to do at the end is kind of rate my positioning or where I feel I'm at. And if you're doing this at home, equally, write down the first one, your thoughts, your understanding of the value or the belief or the mindset term, and rate yourself out of 10. And it's just quite a nice marker sometimes where we feel true. Don't try and people please because nobody's going to see your answers. You're more than welcome to leave them in the comments. However, it's that idea of this is for you and it's your real, your connection with it. And like any tool in the world, any exercise, the more you do it, the more you show up, the more you're congruent, the more value you're going to get from it. So here we go. So the first one was, like I mentioned, ownership mindset. And it's this idea that I am 100% responsible for my own success. Nobody else. I learned this the hard way. So when I started coaching, I thought to myself, you know what, let me lean into what I'm good at, which is coaching, and everything that I don't know, let me pay someone to do. So that's what I did. Cost me a lot of money. There was no return of investment. That situation or that relationship soured because as we went through and I started to query how when people weren't coming as clients, then there was immediate pushback on myself, on what I wasn't doing, on this is a team effort and you should be putting more into it. And yes, in reflection now, they were correct to certain aspects. However, that initial conversation or that initial, what's the word? Um, idea agreement wasn't fine-tuned. So we weren't working together. I was under the assumption that I worked with them and they got me the clients, whereas that started to change when clients weren't materializing. So it's really important, especially when you're on this journey. My recommendation now on reflection, hard learning the hard way, is do it yourself. 100% do it yourself. Even if you're going to hire people and tap into mentors and their strategies and their suggestions. And yes, work with people, of course, because you're going to lean into their expertise, but you need to make sure that you are still 100% involved, 100% in the process. So you know what works, what feels congruent to you. So if worst case scenario that relationship was to fail, you can still come in and you can still keep the business going because you know each of the steps. So hopefully that in itself is a good realization there that if you are creating a business, especially the beginning stages, eventually down the line, yes, there's different elements. However, your success is further down the line. And that's an opportunity where you can then reinvest your income, your earnings to potentially hire staff, systems, so on and so forth, as we'll potentially talk through certain examples of that in this video. So I am 100% responsible. Yeah, I have that ownership mindset. Everything that you are creating is for yourself. And if you don't turn up in the early stages, and especially, it's not going to work. The other thing that I learned the hard way, and it's a really simple reframe, is that you can do all the coaching certifications in the world, but effectively just know that you are not creating another job for yourself. You are creating a business. And they are two very different things. A job, you turn up, show your best. Even on your bad days, you're still showing up for yourself. However, you're being told what to do. And ultimately, you're getting a salary at the end of the month. Makes no difference. Whereas a business, no one's telling you what to do. And unless you put the work in, you're not getting paid. So it's a big lesson. And sometimes in life, you have to learn the hard way. How many times were you a child and don't do this and don't touch that and don't say that? And you do it anyway. You end up hurting yourself, you end up crying, but you learnt the lesson. And effectively, this is exactly the same. And I would say lean into that space of we are going to fail. You're going to fail. Oh, you're going to go through all the emotions. You're going to go through all the pain, all the suffering. But no, that's just growth. And it's just the way you think on that and how you learn. We're always learning. There's always opportunity to learn either how to do things or how not to do things. So again, it's just that real kind of simple way of looking stuff in your mind. I'm going to try something and I'm going to learn what worked well, what opportunities it created, how do I fine tune that, how do I go again? And we just keep learning, keep practicing, because the more you practice, the more you progress. And it's simple as that. And how do we progress? We have to do more practice. Simples. Simples. And what else is here? So there's no value in the blame game. So that's one of the big things in terms of responsibility. So as soon as you work with somebody and you don't set your expectations or create that agreement, you get that back and forth. It's your job. No, it's your job. No, but it's your fault. No, it's your fault. It's all nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. So just know that if you're hiring a company or you're looking to partner with somebody to work with them, you are still 100% responsible, and you are basically effectively buying their knowledge, their expertise. Yet at the bottom line, if something doesn't work, it's not their fault. It's just that we need to try something different. And are we in a position to still have that relationship where we can do that together going forward? Simple. Own your decisions, own your choices, and be accountable. Yeah. Because that's where it all comes down to in the end. It's just you and how you show up. Make sure that you know that when you start a business, you are 100% in charge and you own that. You own that choice. Not rejection, rather redirection, which is this idea, isn't it? So again, it's that play on if something doesn't work. I'm not rejected. Oh my gosh, I'm a failure. This is going to collapse. It's how do I redirect that energy? How do I redirect my focus to say, you know what, that didn't work. However, I really like that aspect of it. And actually, what was the feedback that I got from the reason why it didn't work? And how can I completely change that going forward? So equally. So the second one, so sorry, just to go back, so ownership mindset, I would say me personally, I live in that space now, especially now, where I would say high nine, even not even 10 out of 10. I know that everything that I do now and my business success is solely based on my input, my action, my decisions going forward. I own that. If I don't show up, if I don't watch the videos, if I don't do this recording, nothing's going to change. So I own that. So for me, I've upgraded myself now already just talking to you, living in this space. I know 100%, 10 out of 10, that I am in full control, fully ownership of my business through my experiences, through my own learnings. And I really understand and have that mindset of that ownership is mine. So, second one. So, the second point is the abundance mentality. So, this is an idea. There's enough success, wealth, and opportunity for everyone. So this is a big thing that I have conversations with people all around. This idea of there's saturation, there's too many coaches, there's too much this, there's too much that. One of the analogies I like to use for people, first of all, is if you walk down your high street, this is very much the case in the UK at the moment, there's always another coffee shop. They're always opening more coffee shops. So the question is, if it is saturated, why are there so many coffee shops? So the first thing, obvious thing, is because there's a need for coffee, because people are always buying coffee nowadays. Second thing is, let's say you go down your local high street, you will have your favorite coffee shop, no doubt. However, if there was a new coffee shop that opened on your road, would you not at some point go and try their coffee? See what the environment is like, see what that experience is like, because you might find you'll enjoy it more. Or, like everything, we just want a slightly different experience to the point where we can now go back to our favorite coffee shop and have even more appreciation on how that makes us feel. An example of this is there's a really nice Italian coffee shop not far from where I live in the local village, and I go in there and he knows me by name. So for me, that's huge. Yeah, knows me by name, shakes my hand, we have a nice conversation, we check in, we sit down, he just brings me my order, he knows exactly what I want. The coffee's really nice, okay? It's affordable, it's a great experience to the point where I don't need to go in there every week. I can go there every week for a month and then not go in there for 3, 4 months, and every time it's that same personal experience for me. That's not to say, because he's shut on certain days, that if another coffee shop opened in the village, I wouldn't go and try that. Of course I would, because I'm intrigued and I like to have different experiences. So it's really important, first of all, so we wouldn't say that the coffee shop market is saturated. Another way of looking at this is if you have, let's say in this world, there was only five, okay, there's only five people in this world. Think about the billions of people in the world, and there's only five of them who talk about personal growth. Okay. And you're in that space where you feel a little bit stuck, a little bit lost at the moment. You go, you know what? I really want to learn. If you do not like those five people, what's the likelihood that you're going to continue down that path? Or more importantly, what's the likelihood that you're going to want to learn from those people? I would say it's quite slim. So again, it's that reminder that be the sixth person. Be the seventh person, the eighth, the ninth, the 10th, because there are people out in the world. There is an audience out there for you. There are so many people in this world that need support, that need your support. And it's very easy to get lost in the high numbers. Okay, so you think about the experts of today and the leading professionals in personal growth and the amount of followers that they have. But when we're starting out at the very early stages, it's really important to know your time. So if you're coaching and you're very new to coaching world like myself, and you want to do one-on-one coaching just to establish your experience and build your foundation, slowly start to build your experience in your brand, okay, you have only got a limited amount of hours a week for how you can coach. So let's say hypothetically that's 30 to 40. So your maximum capacity, depending on what you offer, would be 30 to 40 clients a week. Now, if you're coaching them once every week, that's it. You're talking about 40 people a month. That's it, 40 people a month. So how many followers do you actually need? How many, how many posts, how many likes, how many adverts, all of these things, we don't realize we're doing it, but we're comparing ourselves to these people who make, multi-millionaires making lots and lots of money a year. However, they've been through this process to the point that they've got to a certain level and then they start to scale. And then they start to do different things, group coaching, retreats, events, speaker gigs, all this, but they fundamentally all started where we're starting, in a room with two people, on a Zoom call when no one shows up. Okay? Struggling. What's the expression? Feast or famine for the first, 0 to 6 months. Because we need to be consistent, but we also need to experiment and try, okay, to see what works, what doesn't work. But ultimately, it's knowing that, going back to the point here with the abundance mindset, that there is more than enough space for you. There is more than enough opportunity and there are more than enough clients. Okay. The other way of looking at this is I always use the analogy, if you're a top athlete, let's say a top tennis player in the world, tell me you've got all the money in the world, hugely successful, you're number one, you're winning tournaments, every few months, you're phenomenal at tennis. For you to maintain that performance, how many people do you employ as part of your team to keep you there? And think about it. How many individual coaches? So you've got potentially a chef, nutritionist, you've got a fitness coach, you've got a coach who focuses on the mental side of stuff, you've got your recovery team, you've got your masseuse, you've got your effectively a life coach, you've got a business coach, you've got a financial expert. The list goes on and on and on. But then the question is, I always say to people, do you hire those team of coaches and individuals to maintain you number one, or actually are you hiring them to get you to number one in the world? Which is interesting. And then how on that journey do we realize the value in hiring someone, working with somebody step by step by step by step? Because, if you're a multimillionaire and money's no object to you, I would imagine that you have a minimum of, I would say 5 to 10 people within your team around you to support your growth and help you show up as best you can consistently. So there is abundance and then some. There is, if anything, is actually the opposite. There is actually a lack of coaches. There is a lack of quality out there. There is a lack of people stepping into fear, showing up, putting themselves out into the world. Because like I said, if you are, looking for somebody and you decided to stay quiet, you're not actually helping. You're not helping yourself and you're not helping them. So think about that. Okay. It's really, really important. The other side of things, what I would say is it's very easy when you start looking in coaching and you naturally do the comparison and you look out there. But every few months, I find another creator, another inspirational person that I've never heard of. Okay. But they've got a fantastic following. They've got fantastic business. They've got fantastic service and they're offering a different type of well-being, of personal development, or what's the word, modality that is helping people. And sometimes, depending on the situation, you need something different, something to mix it up. So a bit like tennis, as the analogy, they don't always have the same coach. Every few years, they try somebody else. Or that particular coach is now booked out, or they're doing something different, so there's no capacity now. So naturally, you would then have to find somebody else. So it's just this idea that when you're in a different place, a different time in your life, that there's always going to be somebody there waiting who fits, almost like that, living in alignment, divine intervention, whatever you want to call it, get all spiritual. You need to show up. You need to be offering yourself because there are people in the world that need to hear you from you. So another one there is leaning into that space as well. It's that how do we collaborate more? How do we work more with people leaning into that space? So yeah, you might know about mindset, but then this person over here might know about confidence. So as my client, I hire you. Not only are you going to get a better mindset, a way of thinking, but also you're going to be so confident because now I've created a deal where we both coach you. Or I coach you one to one and you get to access this person's confidence, I don't know, program, pre-recorded videos, recordings, whatever it may be. It's really just seeing the opportunity and how do you share each other's audiences? How do you share each other's specialties? So then you give back even more value. It leans a little bit to the idea that two heads are better than one. Okay. But with the mindset and the thought that we're actually helping each other to grow rather than fighting competition, which in itself, I would say is a negative energy and it's not going to lead to much. Okay. So that's also another opportunity there for this idea that we collaborate together because ultimately we are in an industry where we are creating value. And the value and the experience that clients have is what then is just going to build and compound our growth and our success as we continue to go forward. So how many times have you gone into a coffee shop and thought, I don't know what coffee I'm going to have, as opposed to going into the coffee shop, being welcomed on a name-to-name basis, having a handshake, being sat down, how's your day going? Don't worry, I'll bring your coffee over for you. The value that I get from my local coffee shop, second to none. So if I ever need a coffee in the local area, where am I more likely to go? Where I feel appreciated, where I know a certain value. So it just makes sense. So in terms of abundance mentality, 100%, 10 out of 10 for me. That's how I would rate myself. Yeah. Really owning that space and just really kind of growth mindset. Let's work together. Let's really kind of take this to the next level. Yeah. Competition. There's not enough. There's not enough of us supporting the world. There's too many people still stuck, overwhelmed, stressed, anxious. So that tells me that there is a huge demand for coaching, and our real challenge is changing people's mindset to lean into coaching as a solution to their challenges rather than sitting in silence. So the third one is growth orientated thinking. So it's this idea that every challenge is an opportunity to learn and improve. Failure equals feedback. So I would own up to myself having a growth mindset, understanding the importance of always looking for solutions, always looking at better ways of doing things. It's very easy for me to sit here and say, you know what, I've got lots of experiences, but I have had over the last 3 years so many failures. It's beyond belief. The amount of times that I felt like, let me just go and get a job. Let me just quit. But there's that little voice. I'm like, I've gone so far. I've got so much value, so much to offer to the world that I would be kidding myself. I could quit, get a normal job, never come back to this. And I know that for the rest of my life, secretly somewhere inside, I would be miserable because I'm not fulfilling my potential. And that's more frustrating for me. So when you're on this, I mean, and it kind of links into this idea, but growth oriented thinking, everything is an opportunity. Yes, sometimes we need to pause, we need to reflect, we need to create that awareness to then go, right, you know what, next time I can make this choice, or next time I could do this. Of course, because we're going into a new experience and we keep practice, practice. And the more we practice, the more we start to find the next best step. And that's what it comes down to. Having that growth change is inevitable. So let's not stand still, try to recreate the past. Let's just keep moving. Let's show up with no expectation and just lean into that experience as much as we can, showing up. So let's say you've got a client and you have a phenomenal first session, means nothing. Okay. It's that mindset of you're only as good as your last game. You're only as good as your last coaching conversation. So you're setting that expectation all the time that I'm showing up. And it's a fresh, clean slate every time I talk to people, every time you record a video. So again, like this, following intuition, following the gut, following that feeling of, I don't have any pre-recorded notes. This is raw, unscripted. I've got a few bullet points. Everything else is from experience. Everything else is lived. And it's just my thoughts and opinions with the intention that you take what works and the rest of it, hopefully somebody else will enjoy. Okay. I'm not sitting here trying to dictate what you're going to take as valuable and what you won't. Okay. It's just simply me sharing my experience because I know what it feels like to go on this journey. And I am maybe one or two steps ahead of you, and that's it. And as I continue to grow and I continue to show up and record this and share this with you, you will see my progress. And hopefully, the idea is that you will follow. You might even get to the point where you know what, you overtake me, and good luck. And I wish you all the best because that's what it's about. It's just about as long as you see your potential, you start to believe and you show up consistently. That's all we need. We need better people in this world. And I know if you're watching this, there is a great person in you. You are a great person. It's just tapping into that belief, tapping into being yourself, showing up for you, because when you are at your best, everyone benefits. So by default, if you do that more consistently, the world's a better place because you are in it and you are just being you. It's that simple. Well, I believe it to be that simple. And yes, might not be easy, but it is simple. There's a big distinction between the two words. Failure over feedback. Like I said, everything's an opportunity. Yeah. Failure. What does it even mean? I don't particularly like the word because it's quite negative. Yes, it's just a lesson, isn't it? You're just learning all the time. I tried this, it didn't work. You know, I play sports quite a lot, football. Sometimes you get ambitious and you say, you know what, I'm gonna try this really difficult pass. You know, and it didn't work. But you know what? I'm still gonna try it in another 2 or 3 minutes. I'm still gonna try it the following week because when it does come off, it leads to a goal. or more likely towards a goal. So sometimes, yes, we're going to have that failure, but you know what? I own that. I showed up. Yeah. And guess what? If I lose the ball, guess who's going to work harder than anyone else to get the ball back? Me. So it's always about how you show up and your mindset. We're going to try something. And you know what? It might not work out, but that's fine. I'm going to learn and then I'm going to go again. I'm going to learn and then I'm going to go again. But the most important thing is showing up. I said this to my son. If you're playing football every weekend and you're miserable and I don't know, let's say you're on a bit of a losing streak and you lose that interest, your teammates cannot play if you fail to show up. So even on your worst day, the fact that you're there walking around the pitch rather than running, you are actually providing value because you showed up and you made the numbers. So if we know that to be true, okay, and we also know that we're not going to be man of the match every week, but we showed up, so we got that far. So we might as well put more of an effort in. Try our best with what we have on that day. You might be carrying an injury, you might have a bit of a cold, you might just not really be into it, but you know what? Still show up because that one pass, that one tackle, that one shot, that one goal can have a massive influence on the rest of your team. So it's huge. So growth orientated thinking, maybe slightly went a bit of a tangent as I do, as I'm sure you're used to that now already. It's huge. Okay, so for me, I marked myself down as 9 out of 10. Could quite possibly argue that's 10 out of 10. I understand and I embody growth and the mindset and the learning and the opportunities. Okay, and there was a saying that came along with the video, which I'm going to butcher completely, but it's this idea of what can I do right now with everything that I have got in this moment right now. So it's this idea, it's very easy to wait to say, when I have X amount of money or when I have this team or when I have this, it's just excuses. Guilty as charged of doing this. I even still do this to this day when this happens, when this happens. But the irony is it's not happened yet because we haven't created it yet. So is it a waste of energy? That's the question. And second of all, if it is, then what can we do? Excuse me, what can we do with what we have right now today? Because that is the only way that's going to get us to the next step. So it's again, looking down, looking at your feet, taking that one step at a time. Take that one step. After that, you just focus on the next step, focus on the next step, and you just keep going. You just keep going. Let's say you're out and about and you want to drink. You're a bit thirsty, it's a nice sunny day. If you think about the real simplicity of that, you have to find a shop that sells the drink that you want to buy. But how do you get to the shop? You have to walk. And that's all we're doing. We're walking with the view that along our journey, we're going to be able to pause, to be able to buy the water, to then continue our journey. Really simple. The importance, just focusing on taking those steps. Number 4 was long-term vision. So what is your vision? What is that future of your business? What does it look like? What does your life look like? That kind of idea. Do we have one? Because we're not just stepping out of the house, going for a walk, thinking, you know what, I'm just going to walk wherever and then just come back. Because the irony is you're coming back home. So that's the end of your vision. So if your vision is, I'm going to leave my house and I'm going to walk, I don't know, across the country, somewhere you need an endpoint within reason. Okay. Even if you figure that out along the way, where you tell yourself somewhere along the line, your brain is going to get to the point you go, no, this is the end, or this is the next path that we're going to follow. So it's that long-term vision. So the idea is big goals require patience and consistency. Again, if you set a goal that you're going to run a marathon, run half a marathon, run 10,000, a 10K, and you don't do any training, it's going to be a struggle. Equally, that when you're running 10,000, 10K, you are in the moment just taking one step at a time. And that's it. One step at a time, one breath at a time, and it just keep going, and you just keep going, and you just keep going, knowing that if you're consistent with your pace, you're going to get there a little bit quicker. Okay. Knowing that if you go too fast too quickly, you're going to tire and that's going to affect your performance. Okay. But ultimately, the bigger one is you're always going to get to the end unless you decide to quit. which happens, of course, sometimes. Injury, this, that. That's why it's so important to do the correct preparation. That's why it's so important to put your practice, to get your groundwork in. So you're less likely to quit. Simple. So big goals require patience and consistency. Yeah. You don't step out your door and say, you know what, I'm going to run a marathon today. It's going to take me an hour. And then, I don't know, then I'm going out for dinner and do something in the evening. It's not how it works. Yeah. To be able to be fit, looking after your body and your health, it can take anything from 6 to 12 months training to be able to show up. So why would your business be any different? Why do we think that we're going to get overnight success? Why do we think that, today you're going to be on zero and tomorrow you're going to be a multi-millionaire? It doesn't work that way. It's good to have that long-term goal. It's good to have that realism, but expectation and trust that, you know what, I'm not a millionaire yet being the key word. However, I know the steps and I know myself and I know the consistency and I'm not afraid of failing as long as I'm learning and correcting, taking on that feedback, changing as I go to the point where as long as I keep showing, as long as I keep taking those steps, as long as I keep putting the bricks down, we spoke about in another video, I'm eventually going to build my house. I'm eventually going to finish the race. Patience, consistency, in a nutshell. Those two things, if you do them all the time, it's impossible to still be at the starting point. Think about that, regardless in which direction you're headed. You are on your path, you are walking down it. And then focus on getting closer. Everything takes time. Naturally, everything takes time. But the most important thing is that we're moving. We're constantly moving. So in terms of my own long-term vision, in terms of my business and where I see the value and the growth and the ideas, for me, my long-term vision currently is a solid 9 out of 10 because I can picture that. I can see the one-on-one coaching. I can see leading into group coaching, leading into retreats, leading into speaker events, leading on to pre-recorded programs, offering as much value to the world as possible. I've got it. It's written down. It's on my goal list, and I am now focusing on achieving that. Hugely important. Number 5 mindset is value creation focus. So it's this idea, the more value I create, the more success I attract. Now, my version of events on this is if you follow your heart and you are passionate about something that you do and you do it to your optimal level where you're offering as much value as possible, forget about money for a second, you are going to feel empowered and valued every single day that you work. Huge. And if you are delivering that value onto your clients, they're going to experience a near similar experience to the point where they are going to either come back or they are going to recommend you, which means that by default, you just showing up, offering as much value as possible, you are now creating success and you are attracting more success to you. Okay. Now, if we add in the value of money, which we are allowed to attract into this world, I think I said this in the last video, but I'll repeat it because I think it's really important. I came into this space saying, oh, it's not about the money. It's just about helping people. So that signal to the universe, again, a bit spiritual woo-woo here, is the universe then hears, oh, this guy doesn't need money. I won't give him any. How is that going to help support me, my family, my kids, my business, my clients? It's not. So equally, it's offering value to the point where, you know what? I set my prices, which I think are fair and reasonable. As long as my client is getting value, then they're going to decide whether or not that price point is good or not. Not me, my clients are. To the point where do I raise it? Do I have to lower it? Do I have to create an offer? Whatever that is, the clients are going to tell me whether or not that is a good value or not. So just by, again, focusing on that value side of, okay, we are already determining the success and how much more attractive we look in terms of testimonials, in terms of outcomes, that kind of idea. So hopefully you get where I'm trying to lean this idea for yourselves. So every time it is value, yeah. If you're doing it from a place of love, it's hard to beat that. Yeah. How can you go above and beyond? I watched a video a few months ago, famous actor, can't remember his name, where he had this mindset growing up through his life that every time he did any job, any activity, any task, in his mind, it was they are paying me £1 million to achieve this. So let's say he started off as a cleaner. So he's cleaning, I don't know, toilets. But in his mind, he's like, I'm getting paid £1 million to clean these toilets. So his work ethic changed, his end product changed, his, outcome changed because he was taking real care and attention. And the irony is, if you're keeping that mindset, okay, now he's a well-renowned actor. How many millions do you think he gets paid to act in a film? So it's again leaning into this wonderful spiritual woo-woo of believing is seeing. So if I believe that I'm going to get paid £1 million to do something, and I believe that enough, and I keep telling myself, and I keep showing up, and I keep doing the work, and I keep consistent. Yes, we need patience. Yes, we need consistency. However, the end result will almost automatically be exactly what you were thinking. It's an interesting idea. There are people who will be watching this, hearing this, and be like, nah, it doesn't work. No problem. That's a belief that you've got. Try that one out, would be my suggestion. And how can you prove that that is actually true? I'm never going to get paid £1 million. Keep telling yourself that. Whereas you flip it, even if you don't believe it yet, but you start opening to that suggestion, that idea in your mind, more positive way of thinking, that eventually it might just happen. It might just come true. And for me, that's a lot more exciting world to live in than the default, it's never going to happen. But again, it's your choice. You just take what works, the rest can do whatever you like. So what else is this? Use your time wisely to create value. So this was a really important distinction for myself, especially starting now. So this idea, let's say you're a very new coach, you've got one or two clients, but you've got the capacity to coach 30. So in your diary, you're creating one-on-one time slots for sessions, right? So when you aren't coaching in those one-on-one times, are you still using those time and that allocated slot to create value? So when you do get a customer or a client, sorry, you can then offer them even more value. So what does that look like? It's entirely up to you, but am I making sure that my exercises are on point? I'm making sure that my presentations are on point. Am I practicing to the point that my delivery is on point? Am I really creating, great stories? Am I great at storytelling? Two different distinctions there as well. To the point that when I actually have my client, I've got so much to give, so much value, to the point they're like, wow, where's this person been all my life? Are we showing up in those spaces and creating, going on a Zoom call, even a bit like this? This is a one-on-one coaching conversation with who? I don't even know if anyone's going to watch this video, but you know what? I'm showing up anyway. And I'm using my time to create value. I'm rehearsing conversations. I'm creating stories. I'm getting better at talking. I'm getting more confident. I'm paying attention to the words I'm saying, the tone, the pitch, the pace, everything that I am doing here in this video. Afterwards, I reflect and I'm practicing, create another video, more practicing, more reflection, and I keep progressing to the point where eventually I believe that I'm going to be speaking on stage in front of thousands of people a year. It all starts here, getting my hours in, getting my practice in, getting that confidence to just keep talking, keep talking. If you said to me, I did a video the other day, an hour and 45 minutes, and on reflection, I was like, if you told me to talk for an hour and 45 minutes, I'd be like, I can't do that. It's impossible. Whereas I just sit here, I've got a few notes, and I'm repurposing what I'm learning to the point where I'm creating content. And I'm like, in our video, I've just basically put my interpretation on it, and now it's like nearly 2 hours of content. But had you said that to me before, I'd be like, oh, I don't think I could do that. That seems like a lot. Whereas sometimes you just sit here, trust the intuition, trust the flow, trust the value that you're trying to offer. Loads. I could talk for hours. Creating that value. Another thing which is interesting, especially when we're new, if we haven't got the budget to it, which they talked about as well, which I think is really important, is creating your own stage. So YouTube is a perfect platform to create a stage. So I come on here, record a few videos, in a few months, it might be 10 videos. But guess what? It's better than zero. If a client wants to potentially work with me, you know what? I can just refer them and say, I don't have a website currently. However, go check me out on YouTube. Watch a couple of the videos. See if anything that I say feels like it's a good match. I'm just me showing up consistent. This is what it's going to be like if we work together. No pretense, raw, unscripted. I'm just here to help, ask questions, offer as much value as possible. Creating my own stage to the point where I'm not waiting for an audience. Yeah. I have created this stage. So when the audience comes, there you go. Here's a little preview. And if you enjoy watching it, then you know what? We can have more opportunities like that. So it's really just trying to grasp that idea. And more importantly, which I think is really important, it's this idea of acting like a future self. So if we fast track 12, 18, 2 years into the future, 24 months, you are now a successful coach. First of all, congratulations. I'm confident you're going to get there. Second of all, it's just if you feel and lean into that space a little bit, what does that actually look like? What does that actually mean? What does my life entail for me now that I am a successful coach? So is it I still wake up in the morning, do my meditations, I still do my exercises, I still go to the gym, I still watch videos, I still, have that personal growth, I read books. Yes, ultimately, I'm doing all of those things to keep learning, growth mindset, showing up for myself. But equally, I'm coaching people more consistently. I'm getting consistent results. I'm changing people's lives to the point where now I'm looking at group coaching. I'm increasing my value. I'm increasing my audience size to the point where I'm getting more money and I'm repurposing that money into creating retreats, creating online content, to hiring a team so I can focus more on this. And then they can start to look at the things that, maybe I'm not as good at or I've got not that much interest in marketing, dealing with emails, responses, things like that. And you can start to see if you're in that space now, how do we create that for ourselves? I mean, I'm a very big believer in this idea of, let's say you've got your normal 9 to 5 job. Okay, so there's a little bit storytelling. And then you come in one day and you say, oh, life's miserable. But you know what? Oh, so excited. I just booked a holiday. I'm like, oh, amazing. Where are you going? Oh, I'm going to Turkey for 2 weeks. Ah, okay. So where are you staying? Well, I'm staying at this hotel. Okay. And what are you going to do when you get there? I'm going to go to this water park. I'm just going to go to the beach. They've got a buffet. They've got fantastic food. And I've got I don't know, I'm going to do a tour around the city. And you start to show up every day and you start to continue to talk about your holiday. But what you're actually doing is you are manifesting and creating your reality. Because guess what? The more you talk about it, the more you're planning, the more likelihood is that this is going to come to fruition because you've booked it and you're going, for one. But two, you are living that experience. So as soon as you get to Turkey, you're going to do all those things that you've said and potentially more. The most interesting thing about that is how many people book a holiday, yes, and then after they come back from holiday, where do you go? Back to your job, right? Back to default, back to where you were exactly before your holiday. So my question is, are we only creating a holiday for ourselves rather than a lifestyle? Or do we actually need to create a holiday and then we need to then start to create what happens after? And then what happens after that? And then what happens after that? Or are we just pausing and going back to default? I went traveling around the year. I was very privileged. 6 months. I came home after 6 months. Phew, so many experiences, met so many wonderful people, went to many countries around the world, and everybody at home, what changed for them? Not much, I'll tell you. Not much at all. it's that invitation, isn't it? I say to people all the time, you think about traveling, book your ticket, book your flight, book it one way. Go in and experience life while you can. Because otherwise, there's always another responsibility. There's always another task. There's always another job. There's always another resistance, another reason why. And if you believe the idea that we're only here once, then what exactly are you waiting for? Go and fail traveling the world. Go and fail in a different country. Go fail doing something that you love, something that you enjoy. That is my invitation to you. Go fail creating a business anywhere in the world. You know, that future of self of you, where are you? Are you living in the same house? Or are you living in the, by the sea? Are you living in a forest? Are you living near a lake? Are you living in a more desired location? If so, why aren't we going there now? It's an interesting thought. And I invite you all to just lean into that a little bit more and say, you know what? There is some value in this. There's some truth. So let me explore it a little bit. So rating myself in terms of value creation focus, for myself personally, there are certain things I still need to work on, like naturally, like most of us, but I would say I'm a solid 8, potentially out of 10 for that one. And then we're going on to number 6, which is relentless action. So action beats perfection every time. I think it just speaks for itself, isn't it? And it's kind of a similar theme to what we've come on with. It's just relentless. Just keep turning up. Keep talking about coaching. Keep talking about your business. Keep believing in yourself. Keep not, you know, overcoming your fears. Just trust yourself. Just keep trusting, trusting, trusting. Keep showing up. Keep doing everything that you can because the more you do that, the further you're going to go. You've just ran for, I don't know, you're doing a 10K race and that last 1,000 steps, if you give up then, you're like, nah, I'm going to push through. I'm going to get that inner strength to just really have a strong finish. I'm going to sprint as much as I can, cross that line, relentless. And then you know what? I'm just going to pick myself up and I'm going to go running the next day because it's who I am, not what I do. It's who I am, not what I do. Who I am, relentless action. This business is a reflection of you from your person, from your purpose, from your heart, from your love. It's just who I am. Talk, ask lots of questions, offer suggestions. It's just who I am. Worst case scenario, you don't want to talk to me, no problem. I'll find someone else who wants to talk to me. I'll find somebody else who I can help, who I can offer suggestions to, who I can give value to. No problem. There's many, many people in the world who need my help. They just don't know it yet. But if I'm just sitting there quietly, not saying anything, that's not helping me. That's not helping them. So it's just owning who you are, owning your business, owning your passion, just being consistent, relentless, relentless action. Let's keep showing up. Let's keep doing it. Let's do the tasks. You could be the best. You could have that natural talent, that natural, I don't know, instinct to do certain things. But if you don't show up and you don't keep doing it, the argument is that it's a waste. And there are many sporting professionals out there who have got great stories and they're great examples of exactly this one thing. Relentless action. Keep showing up, keep doing what you need to do, keep taking those steps forward. So in terms of relentless action, I would say for myself in my journey currently, I would rate myself about a 7 out of 10. I get the principles behind it, although I still have my own self doubts, my own fears, which I'm working to overcome. And it's just that consistency. I've got lots of excuses, don't get me wrong. I'm sure you have as well, where that's not quite where it needs to be at. At the same time, we create awareness around this, like all of these exercises, created awareness, and then we start to change our choices. How do we start to empower them and say, you know what, that's what I used to do, but now I'm starting to do this. And as a result, I'm starting to see the difference and seeing the impact that it makes, which I think is huge. Number 7 is unwavering self-belief. I trust in my ability to succeed no matter the challenges I face. So I'll read that again. I trust in my ability to succeed no matter the challenges I face. Unwavering self-belief. Hopefully by now, you've maybe only this is, I don't know, first video you've watched. My self-belief is 10 out of 10. But more importantly, my belief in you is 10 out of 10. I believe in everybody. There is an inner voice, an inner purpose, an inner gift, an inner talent that if we're not already giving that to the world in terms of contribution, then that's my challenge. How do I get it out of you? Because it is there and it's holding you back. And by doing it, you're not necessarily failing yourself, although that is quite harsh, and I would lean into that. You're failing everybody else. And it's not complicated. It's just showing up, making yourself, living life, living this experience without the fear, without the consequence, without the crap and the limiting beliefs that we've been taught. And it's really stepping into yourself, going, no, listen, I know what makes me happy. I know when I'm at my best. I know all of these things. I'm just not doing them. Lots of reasons why, lots of excuses, of course, but it doesn't matter. All of it does not matter at the end of the day. You need to show up for you. The more you show up for you more consistently, the better your life will be. Simple, simple beliefs. So, no surprise here. 10 out of 10 for myself, unwavering self-belief. I know and I believe that I can, through conversation, help anybody with anything, with the view that I can signpost them, I can give them that belief, that confidence, that outlook, that changing the perception on the way that they think to better themselves. That's my belief. Sometimes it's one conversation, sometimes it's one sentence, sometimes it's 20 conversations. It doesn't matter. I will get there in the end because I have that belief in myself and in you. But it goes back to patience, consistency. Sometimes you'll come across people, you're helping them. They don't want help. They just want to be told what to do. They want the quick fix. They want the solution. They don't want to do the work. That's fine too. But then I'm not the coach for you, am I? You're going to have to find somebody else. Because it's really important that you own that space, own that growth, own your own belief, your own transformation. Because you're the only one who can do it. A bit like your business, isn't it? Ownership, 100% ownership. I'm all in. Number 8 was continuous improvement. If I'm not growing, I'm falling behind. Very simple. Change is inevitable. Growth. Go with it. Don't create the resistance. It's this idea of if you're floating down a river, just go with the flow. Simple. Yes, there's going to be rocky paths. Yes, there's going to be a bit like a waterfall. Yes, there's going to be a dip at the end. Trust, go with the flow. Don't create your own resistance. Don't try to swim against the tide. It doesn't work. It's not at ease. It's not in alignment. And then naturally, you trust that the river, get my words out, it's just going to guide you, and you're going to be on the path that you're meant to be on. Belief. And we grow, continuous improvement. So myself here, 9 out of 10, could easily be a 10. But there are lots of things and opportunities that I still feel that I would like to grow as an individual. But the concept and the idea around continuous improvement, yes, 10 out of 10. However, am I always showing up for that? Most of the time. Yeah, so there is always room for improvement, naturally. Number 9 is delegation and leverage. So I don't have to do everything myself to succeed. So this is very interesting because it leans into this idea, and I think this is when we're a bit further down the line in terms of success, and you start to get money into your business to the point where we've got that business mindset where I'm reinvesting in my business. So am I now feeling comfortable in a space where rather than me doing it, I'm going to pay someone else to do it? It's really simple. What bits don't I enjoy or am I not very good at that I could just pay someone, be it an hour, be it a couple of hours a week? Could you just do that for me? Could you prepare my content? Could you reply to my emails? Could you oversee my marketing? Have you got ideas for campaigns? Can you give me feedback on my coaching? Can you edit some videos? It doesn't matter what it is, but it's reinvesting in your business and getting people to help you. AI naturally is the big conversation at the moment, and that's huge. Yeah, lean into AI, leverage it. Because if you don't, everyone else is. You're just going to be left behind. Continuous growth mindset, continuously learning. You see how these all interlink. drives our success. So, what were the leverage points? Some of the things that we could leverage right now, especially with a very beginning like myself. The first one is time, because that's what we have the same as everybody else, but are we using our time effectively? So, how do I leverage time to make sure it works for me? Is that what some people would say, you know what, I've got a new business and I spend 2 hours a day on it? Or, you know what, forget everybody else, minimum 8 to 10 hours. Regardless if I've got a job or not, I'm spending on my business making sure that it's successful. Putting in the hard graft, the hours, the consistency, creating that momentum, knowing that yes, I'm going to have to do this for 6 to 12 months. However, once I start to see the difference, and then I start to get money in and I start to invest in my business and hire people and staff, all of a sudden that 10 hours now goes to eight. That eight now goes to six, or whatever your baseline is in terms of your perfect day, your ideal working week. But you have to create that foundation for it. Nobody else is going to do it for you. No one's going to ring you up and say, Seb, you know what? I want you to work 3 hours a week just coaching people and I'll do the rest for you. Is that okay? Oh, and I'll give you an amazing salary. And you can have holidays whenever you want. And you can pick and choose who you want to coach. And dot, 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 dot. I mean, it hasn't happened yet. Not to say that you're fortunate enough to get that opportunity in the future, but it's very unlikely to create your success, create your momentum, create your value, create your worth. You have to show up. You have to do all the steps to start getting the ladder aligned. And what are the other leverage points? So you've got skill, you've got knowledge. So you do a coaching course, right? I'm now qualified as a coach. Brilliant. But what does that actually mean? That means I've just got a skill. But how do I now leverage that skill? How do I offer that skill to help people? Time, skills. Once we start to compound, everything compounds over time, and we start to generate interest, we start to get money, we can start to reinvest that in our business, in our people, in our systems, AI, automation, that kind of idea. And then naturally, then it leads into brand, marketing, posts, consistency, followers, logos, websites, books, whatever. How do we start to build that brand, build that reputation to the point where now we're leveraging that? We're leveraging testimonials, outcomes, experiences. And it starts thinking about. So in terms of my delegation and leverage at the moment, I would say I'm a 6 out of 10 because I'm very new to this world in the sense of I am probably looking at time skills with the view that I'm starting to now leaning to when I get an income, how do I reinvest that in my business to leverage my growth? So still a little bit of work to be done. Fully expect myself with at least, 12 to 18 months for that to be a lot higher. Exciting. So I just want to pause for a moment, just this real idea that, in 2 years, you're a successful coach or successful in whatever field that you choose to be, and you're actually employing people. Different kind of pressure, huh? Not only are you trying to feed yourself and your kids, your family, you're trying to now feed theirs. Just sign of growth, isn't it? Exciting. Or fear, you decide. And the last one is investment is success. And it's this real idea, isn't it, that success requires investing in myself and my business. So this is a huge shift for me recently where I didn't have the time, I didn't have the money, mainly money. I don't have the money to invest in that course. I don't have the money to run an ad. I don't have the money to have another mentorship. Equally, I spent no return of investment, got myself in financial difficulties, debt, to the point where now I've even got that internal resistance to every time I spend money on something for my business, it's a huge wall to go through, a huge barrier. Yet I'm still doing it. I'm still showing up. Even talking about this right now, my back is on fire, my shoulders are burning. It's like, what? Why are you talking about this? It's shameful. It's fear. It's a place of we don't talk about money. I was always raised, you don't talk about money. It's forbidden. And now to openly accept and own that is difficult. But then you have to step into the difficult. You have to step into the fear because that's where you grow. That's where the solutions come from. Trying things differently. learning your lessons, not seeing it as a failure, seeing it as feedback, seeing it as an opportunity for growth, seeing it as, yes, I'm going to make a hell of a lot more failures, but I'm going to learn every single time. And how can I start to learn those lessons and tweak my response, tweak my approach? Equally, if you're going to invest in someone, show up. I'm showing up as much as I can at the moment, trying my best. I'm always trying my best. Could I lean into that a bit more? Of course. There's always going to be days where, that self-reflection where I'm like, oh, I didn't give enough today. But sometimes I wake up, I've only got 40% energy, but I'm giving you 40% focus. Equally, that's going to feel very different to when I've got 100% energy and I'm giving you 100%. But I'm showing up each day. I'm trying my best to be consistent. And it does take time. And we are always going against years of old patterns, years of resistance. So it's important to know that by default, you fail anything all the time. But it's not about that. It's about when you fall over, how do you pick yourself up? Kids are a great example. I always say to people, look at children and learn from them. It's almost like we have to unlearn and relearn. But when you're a kid and you're learning to walk, how long does it take you? You don't get a trophy if you learn to walk in 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years. Because it's not about the trophies. It's about your experience, your journey. You walk when you're ready. But the important thing is you do not give up. You just keep going. You just fall over, get up, fall over, get up, fall over, get up. And then one day we just stop walking and we forget the falling over. And then we start, how do we run? That's the mindset. That's the positioning. That's the thought process relating to everything. Forget the noise, forget the comparison, forget the overwhelm, the stress, the anxiety, all the key buzzwords that the world keeps replaying over and over again. How do we just focus on ourselves? How do we make things simple? And how do we just get up, just keep walking? Because the rest of it doesn't really matter. Investment in success, myself, guilty of it. Always money is an excuse for me. I don't have enough of it. Previous experiences. So for me, this is a 6 out of 10. But the mindset and the thought process and the value in it, I would say all of these, obviously there's 10 key points here, 10 out of 10, 100. In terms of the belief and the understanding of each of these points, I'm 100 by oh, born to my core depth, understand this value, could teach this, practice this, put this out into the world. However, where I feel I'm sitting at the moment is about 80, 85, which just means there's room for growth. Hopefully you found that useful. Again, like I always say, take what works, forget about the rest. Really appreciate you. Have a wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.